Thanks everyone for tuning into the second version of this community DAO-wide town hall. As discussed previously, for those who were on the past town hall, we're running these quarterly now, and we're going to be thinking about trying to increase the cadence and frequency of running the epoch reviews that were once ran by the foundation and the grants team, which will be interesting to kick off again. Just to give you a quick TLDR of really what's included today. So Charles from the dYdX Foundation will initially kick us off, who's the CEO there, just to talk through everything dYdX Foundation over the past few months, pre our previous town hall. Corey, who's on the call from dYdX Trading, will touch through a few points from dYdX Trading around private testnet, Carl from the dYdX Grants SubDAO will touch on everything grants. Carl also is here from the Ops SubDAO, which will be really interesting to hear through everything ops-wise. Clifton from the dYdX Foundation is here to discuss everything governance. And then we've got two proposers, shall we say, for the V4 Vanguard post. There's Kalen, who I'm aware it's pretty late over in the East Coast. So I'm not sure if his camera will be on or not. But then we've also got a mutable lawyer to discuss the recent snapshot and the post regarding the Discourse Forum migration. And at the end, we've pre-populated some questions, and we'll hopefully go through a few of those. I think for the next few DAO-wide town halls and the epoch reviews, we'll have a much longer Q&A and actual AMA at the ends like we used to, where we can get a few team members on to really answer any community questions. I think for this one specifically, if everyone wouldn't mind keeping their mics on mute for the duration of this AMA, if there is some time that we can potentially answer some questions. As usual, I know we mention this every time, but it's really an iterative process, and would really appreciate any feedback that anyone has towards the end of this AMA, whether it be on Discord or Twitter, on how we can really improve this going forward. That's everything really from an intro. I'll leave it over to Charles, the CEO of the dYdX Foundation, to initially start the foundation off. Charles, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, James and Tristan, for organizing this call with the community. Maybe just before I start with the update for the newcomers to the dYdX ecosystem, a very warm welcome. We are from the foundation. I'm Charles, the CEO of the foundation, and I just want to take a short moment to kind of re-emphasize the role of the foundation in our ecosystem. We are here to support the dYdX protocol ecosystem overall. We look at enabling the community, the developers, and enabling also our decentralized governance. So we also work with many of you from all corners of the world on launching and supporting the launch of the version 4 of dYdX. And helping with it, making it a big success, as well as we are also a very active participant in various community governance conversations, should they be happening on Discord, on the forums, or during those calls. So that's on the dYdX Foundation. Maybe a quick recap on the activities we went through for Q1. I'll start with the user support practice, which we developed together with ACX. James, can I call you back, and maybe that's something you can speak us through? You're leading this effort within the foundation, so you're really the best person to describe this additional program within our ecosystem. Take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Charles. So if everyone might have seen, around about a month ago, the foundation published a blog post on user support, and I encourage everyone to go and check that out. Essentially, we partnered with ACX, who is a crypto native kind of Web3 user support provider, who really are, I guess, top of their craft. They currently have around 3 agents who help support on the dYdX exchange. So for example, if you go to the exchange and you click on the help desk, there are ACX agents who there help support and answer your questions. They really have leveled up our user support game. They will be publishing some really transparent kind of data points that go onto the new dYdX.forum soon on Discourse, just on key metrics, just to really keep the community informed of everything user support essentially, and how that might play a role in V4 eventually. So yeah, keep your eyes open. If there's any questions regarding that, then feel free to drop me a message on Discord or tag on Twitter or whatever, and we can go into more detail. But yeah, they're essentially a service provider that are really top tier talent providing user support. Charles, back to you.
Thank you, James. Keep an eye on this announcement and this presentation. There is really a lot of great energy, great people taking care of this new program. It's a mix of human and AI, and there is kind of a lot of feedback the protocol is receiving via this user support function. So my best advice is use it. Ask a few questions over there, introduce yourself with the agents, as well as mark your agenda for the kind of focus we're going to do on the user support. Earlier this quarter also, we some of us from the foundation joined the Paris Blockchain Week. There was also an event organized by dYdX Foundation over there, essentially mingling with the French community and the European community. The Paris Blockchain Week is very much a European event nowadays. And connecting with some of you from the ecosystem from the French side. Artem also, which is our lead for the French market, is on this call. So it was definitely our kind of steward during that week. And that was a lot of fun and great way to connect with this big community within the dYdX ecosystem. There was also some governance work, obviously, done, and there was a great report which I hope you all read. And if not, we're going to resurface the link, maybe in the chat box, about what are the learnings from the governance V3, and how we can essentially leverage these learnings and this experience we have as a community to start drafting the framework for the governance of V4. We also spend some time always, as soon as our agenda allows, to sync with many of you from the community. So from time to time, I'm able to get one-to-one with some of you guys. Some people maybe sometimes will request a call. So feel free to reach out when our agenda allows. We are always happy to connect and kind of check in, share notes about all the good works from the ecosystem and support. So that's for the the Q1 recap. If Tristan, we can move to the next slide, that would be awesome. For Q2, the team at the foundation is really focused on a number of interesting proposals coming from the forums. We want to essentially engage with those proposals, converse, and see how they can be implemented. There is also the V4 support in general. That's something we are all spending time on, and whenever the foundation can support initiatives from the community or kind of people in the community who wants to take a role in this, we are always here to kind of help and connect the dots. There is a lot of activity picking up in the industry, as you know. The market is kind of recovering from a difficult beginning of the year, and this brings a lot of attention to dYdX in general. So we are trying essentially to help and welcome all the newcomers in the ecosystem. We also went to DAO Tokyo, which is a big event, essentially on the as a satellite event to ETH Tokyo. A lot of events. You probably seen that in the social media. I'm sure we're gonna get maybe a report from this or more news from all these activities and the connectivity we got with the team of the foundation, as well as all the different members of the community and large community of dYdX in Japan. We will be also participating in Nebula. Nebula is a Cosmos focus event on the side of ETHCC in Paris. This will be around July, so pencil your agenda if you want to join us over there. I'm sure there will be many opportunities for us to connect in real life and also connect with the Cosmos ecosystem in general. And some of us are already busy at the foundation, but also with the community to plan for Cosmoverse, which will be in Istanbul in September later this year. I have some thoughts. I have some call for actions for you guys, if you don't mind. Be active on the forums. A new forum is coming up. It's a brand new and super kind of agile platform for all of us to discuss. So it's a really good complement and kind of an upgrade. So be active on those forums. It's a great way to essentially welcome new joiners in the community, but also share some thoughts in various formats and various channels. in these forums, I really invite you to showcase what you're willing to participate and support with. There is a lot of talents. Sometimes you just have to raise your hand and say, "Oh, I have skills in this field, or I have skills or experiences in this other field," so people can essentially put you on the map of the many talents and potentially invite you to some of the projects. So raise your hand and showcase your talent. Don't be shy about it. It's gonna help everyone to essentially work and put the right talents on the right topics. There is also a grants initiative, which will probably be explained in more details in a few minutes. It's called the Cauldron. So essentially, it's fast and smaller grants. And I really invite everyone from the community to leverage this and trying to align some initiatives with potentially a support from the community goal on. We will have also a survey on the update of this call. So please give us some feedback. Expect in a few days some surveys. Should it be on the new forum or maybe on Twitter? What kind of format do you like for us to connect? We have an initial thought, but please feel free to join and share ideas. Thinking of a monthly kind of think between ourselves in line with the epoch review and having an AMA kind of community. We can potentially do that on the first Wednesday following the end of the epoch. And also trying to be doing some rotation in terms of time zone, so we can essentially accommodate people from Asia as well as people from Europe and the Americas in a fair way, so everyone can get accommodated in terms of time zone. And we can keep these quarterly updates with more like a pan ecosystem update, where we invite all the major contributors to share updates with the community. So this is a proposal in the air. Feel free to comment to that. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and I'll pass the mic to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate that update. Cool, Tristan. Let's move to the next slide. Brilliant. Okay, Corey, are you in the audience somewhere?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Yeah, this is Corey from dYdX Trading. Just some updates that we've had. So on V4, we launched milestone 3. This was completed on March 27th. Just as a reminder what this was, it was a private testnet that we launched. Basically what this was, we had a working product with various validators and various traders, mostly, people who have been market making on the protocol prior and are interested in market making on the product in V4. So this was a really good proof of concept, just to show that we could have a distributed validator set and have an exchange kind of working out there in the wild. Right now, we are working on milestone 4, which we are planning on launching towards the end of July. This will be a fully public testnet where anyone will be able to come use the product, trade, get a really good understanding and experience of what the product will likely look like when it is fully launched on mainnet. We're also planning on open sourcing various components of the protocol, that being kind of full nodes, validators, indexers, front ends, deployment configurations. So work is kind of continuing here to finalize what all of these things are at least going to look like in terms of what open sourcing is going to be. So stay tuned for that. And then lastly, a lot of work is still going on regarding MEV research. So we have our full research team kind of dedicated to this. And we have released a blog post kind of with initial thoughts on what MEV might look like and how we plan on mitigating it in V4. So definitely feel free to read that blog post. And also stay tuned for kind of more public information that might surface over the coming months.
Appreciate that, Corey. That was really helpful. Just a quick question from me on that side. Just with regards to private testnet, for any information that you're able to share, Are there any kind of learnings from it, any successes that you can share, or is it still relatively private until nearer the public testnet launch?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'd say most of the learnings thus far have been more on the product side, specifically on kind of like the APIs that we're building, getting a better understanding of how institutional players might want to onboard to the space, how institutional players might view the differences between V3 and V4. I'd say that those were kind of the main learnings thus far. And yeah, I mean, thankfully the testnet itself kind of went off without a hitch. So it's definitely very positive from that perspective. We think we're making a lot of progress there, and the technology itself is in a good spot.
Fantastic. Thanks, Corey. Really appreciate that update. Okay, Tristan, let's move on. Carl, over to you, if you wouldn't mind starting off on the grant SubDAO.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Carl here from Reverie. I'll be sharing some brief updates on the grants and then the Ops SubDAO. So I'll start with the grant side. As a quick reminder, the grants program is on a mission to promote the development of dYdX through community building and contributors. Since launching the renewal of grants V1.5 at the end of February, so we just had our first full month in March, we've now approved 6 grants with a total of about $220,000 in funding. We have some really exciting grants kicking off this renewal, including Strangelove joining to build an ERC22 dYdX chain relayer for USDC deposits in order to effectively make the transition from Ethereum users to the Cosmos dYdX V4 chain users seamless. We have 2 teams working on really important Cosmos SDK development ahead of V4 that will enable a lot of cool features, namely code extensions. We have the merch renewal, and we have some important proposal for funding rate research and a couple of new grants in the works as well. Going forward, we continue to target protocol development, growth efforts, and pretty big emphasis on risk and risk management ahead of V4 as well, and community initiatives as well to not just promote the protocol, but also the DAO. And that's where the Community Cauldron initiative comes in, which we just recently announced, effectively acting as a resource for grants to be able to promote the DAO and make it a more fun and engaging protocol that contributors can participate in, and existing community members can be incentivized to start hosting events, start participating, and in kind of providing their strengths, as Charles mentioned. You know, if there's something that you're an expert in and you want to be able to contribute to the protocol by leveraging that skill set, then feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to chat about ways that we can kind of make you an active contributor instead of just a participant. Beyond that, we've been implementing a few changes like application lifecycle, feedback forms, although actually the feedback form was just recently removed because there was a bug with the data pulling, but it should be back up in any moment. And we're working on some additional initiatives like a trading competition that's going to make use of some of the grants that we've funded and use the merch program as a reward incentive. And then right now we are working on a larger monthly update, which will serve as our Q1 update and include a bunch of KPIs and metrics, which we also kind of promise as part of this renewal. So hopefully that can shed more light on what we estimate as the impact from the grants that we're issuing. Yeah, so if you or anyone you know are interested in contributing to the growth of the protocol, please apply at dYdXgrants.com or give us a shout on Discord, and we'd love to chat about opportunities. Happy to move on to Ops SubDAO, unless there are any questions, James.
No, I was just going to say, after seeing kind of the Community Cauldron released, I think it's an exciting way for almost a stepping stone as well for people to get involved if they're a little bit hesitant and or they feel that, you know, they're not a developer and they haven't got a technical background, but they still feel that their initiatives can provide some value within their region. I think it's a really exciting initiative, and looking forward to seeing that kind of kick off.
Yeah.
Over back to you, Carl.
For sure. Cool. So moving on to the Ops SubDAO. Again, as a reminder, the Ops SubDAO is itself on a mission to enable the growth of a community-run dYdX DAO. So we've been working on a couple of deliverables now for the past few months, including a dYdX DAO playbook, which will serve as a guideline for launching SubDAOs and scaling up the governance of the dYdX DAO, opening a bank account to cover DAO expenses, and supporting communication channels. So I'll just run through those really quickly. On the playbook, we're actually all set there. We finished the draft and gone through our reviewing states and all that, and we now have finalized the design of a standalone website to make the content a bit easier to digest and more interactive and kind of more fun to review. So we should be sharing that with the community by the end of today, I believe. We're just doing some final checks to make sure that everything's working properly. Obviously, I know a lot of people will have feedback and questions and comments and everything on the playbook. And as mentioned, we want this to be an iterative process. So we'll be hosting some AMAs and maybe some other events. Maybe we can do some gather towns or something where we can all kind of go over the content, hear you on feedback, implement new changes and that sort of stuff so that we can make this a community document that we all benefit from as we look to scale up the DAO. But I'm super excited to share that with everybody. We'll put it up, today, tomorrow. On the banking side, March was unfortunately a pretty rough month for crypto banking, as you all know, and that kind of hurt our ability to move forward with the bank that we're working with. Thankfully, it's fine, the bank itself, but they just became super backed up and are dealing with a bunch of other stuff, obviously, but we're back on track now, and we hope to have it ready in the next couple of weeks. And just to confirm, that will effectively act as a way for the trust itself to cover expenses such as, Discourse or Discord or Slack or whatever it might be, rather than having contributors be responsible for paying for these directly. And then on the communication side, we formally launched a new forum page in response to the successful community proposal, which I believe Immutable Lawyer will be chatting about, so I won't go into too much detail there, but super excited to get that up. We're excited to see everybody start putting up new posts and comments and all that stuff, so check it out on dYdX.forum. And then we're also exploring kind of whether the dYdX Ops SubDAO should start to look at Discord or Slack or some other community channels that we can supplement and kind of give community ownership of communications. That's it from me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate those updates. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please, Tristan. Here we are. Cliff, it's up to you.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think the whole of Q1 for us has been focused on doing a lot of research on other Cosmos chains. So understanding how governance actually works on the likes of Cosmos Hub, Osmosis, Regen, Canto, so a couple of the famous Cosmos chains, and documenting how it kind of differs from our current process, understanding what the values are for a lot of these governance parameters like the minimum deposit, the max deposit, the quorum, the threshold, and the max voting period. And then recently, I think Osmosis also had an interesting proposal to introduce expedited proposals. And we feel like that might be something relevant for dYdX as well, whenever there are specific, technical bugs that require urgent fixes that, might not need to go through an entire, governance process. So just documenting a lot of the research and understanding how governance might change come V4. So when it comes to like off-chain votes, do we actually still need snapshots when we transition over to V4? And then obviously, like as everyone knows, delegates are super important in our ecosystem. In fact, since the launch of the Endorsed Delegate program, I believe they make up roughly 42% of all the voting weightages across all the different proposals on both off-chain and on-chain votes. So really thinking through how delegates can kind of transition over from V3 to V4, just because the Gov SDK right now on Cosmos, if we take it wholesale, only stake token holders and validators can kind of vote. So understand that, potentially all these delegates might not be able to run validator nodes. So how do we actually keep them engaged? So really thinking through and making sure that we keep these delegates and active contributors engaged with the ecosystem and making sure that they continue to have a voice. And then lastly, we have been, looking through a lot of regulatory and operational concerns over like SubDAO formations and how they actually interact and coordinate with each other. So working very, very closely with the Ops SubDAO on that front. And on the proposal side, I think we have 2 for the entirety of Q1. So we are expecting an on-chain DIP. It's just going to be one on-chain DIP for 2 separate changes. So that would encompass the DA bug fix for Starkware, as well as the increase in max funding rate to 4% from 0.75%. And the reason for that is because both of these proposals and changes actually fall under the Starkware Priority Executor kind of contract. And after speaking with the Starkware team and after coordinating with the community member that has expressed interest in creating this proposal, it actually makes the most sense, and it's the technically most efficient to just bundle these 2 changes under just one on-chain DIP. So we do expect this on-chain DIP to hit the forums and to hit the dYdX community dashboard sometime this week. And then lastly, we've had the snapshot to transition the community forums from Commonwealth to Discourse. So obviously, Immutable Lawyer is going to speak more about it, but yeah, super happy that this finally launched.
Thank you, Cliff. Great update. Really interesting stuff. Okay, let's move over to Kalen to discuss the V4 Vanguard post. I'm aware it's very late where you are, Kalen, so yeah, you can go at your own pace.
That's so good. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. For those who don't know me, I help run Wintermute's governance arm. And for those who don't know Wintermute, we're an algorithmic market making firm. And sort of like the backstory between Wintermute and dYdX is we were early investors, we're a large stakeholder, and we're also a liquidity provider on the platform, as well as being like fairly active in governance over the past like year to 2 years. So yeah, looking at V4, we're obviously super excited for it, and we'll stay continued to be involved along governance and the liquidity provision side. And that's sort of where like V4 Vanguard came from, was like understanding that we have a large stake in dYdX. Like, is there a way in which we can come forward and propose certain ideas that we think might be able to create a sustainable and somewhat credibly neutral V4 for dYdX? And so the main set of ideas, as you guys can see on the screen, was there is a bunch of proposals that we put forward. Some have passed, some are still under discussion, and some are just sort of signals, as like currently token holders don't have any control over these features. So yeah, like the most important one being like the reduction in trading rewards, which has recently passed. The rationale behind that was like we believe the protocol was spending an unnecessary amount on trading rewards, as it accounted for approximately 44% of epoch commissions. So the reduction allowed the protocol to also begin building up a large treasury that will be like pretty important and impactful for funding dYdX into V4 and its future. The next sort of point that we touched on was adjusting maker and taker fees. We proposed a new maker fee schedule that was a bit more competitive and cheaper for users to help promote passive liquidity, while also raising some taker fees across certain volume bins. As we, you know, being like quite a large liquidity provider on the platform, we noticed there was like a bit of toxic flow that we had been dealing with. And while there's like only so many things like the dYdX trading team can do to help on this side, we believe that, you know, maybe a good interim solution could be raising taker fees. Therefore, it's more expensive for, I guess, toxic flow to arb against passive liquidity providers on dYdX. The next sort of section was around introducing a market maker rebate program. And this program, for people who don't know, is for liquidity providers on exchanges. If you do a certain amount of volume, you unlock a rebate tier. And this allows you to earn like a rebate in the settlement asset, for example, USDC. And that kind of like incentivizes liquidity providers to naturally come on the platform and earn money from market making. This will also help reduce the reliance on dYdX rewards going to the future, which I think is healthy and something that should continue to be pushed going into V4. The next one was pretty controversial with the community, and that was the removal of dYdX and stake dYdX trading fee discounts. The main reason behind this was really to, once again, promote a credibly neutral DEX. For this to happen, it's important to remove token gates. In the case of dYdX, having a fee discount for a user who has to hold dYdX is not really optimal. It disadvantages new entrants. And considering like the main purpose of dYdX is to promote trading and volume on the platform. It doesn't really make sense to have something that gives other people advantages when it comes to trading. And then the next section was focused on a yearly reduction in dYdX emissions and a distribution change in rewards. I don't know if like many of the community holders are aware, but I believe in 2026, the initial dYdX emission schedule will come to an end, and the community can vote on introducing an inflation rate at a max 2%. So in order to, taper stakeholders' expectations and not have a large supply shock for the protocol, we thought it would be like good to gradually taper these rewards every single year to sort of meet that max 2% inflation rate. And then, the last point that we kind of wanted to put forward to the community and see like what their take was is introducing trading rewards, specific allocations per each market. While it may not be like an efficient mechanism for incentivizing trading activity, I think it's like a cool idea to help stimulate trading activity in sort of longer tail markets where there isn't much volume, but the protocol's already paying liquidity providers to sort of sit there and be ready to take on any sort of flow that comes through there. So yeah, like in conjunction, most of these changes we believe are like a good step towards promoting a sustainable and credibly neutral dYdX v4.
Thanks, Caitlin. Appreciate you running through that. And for everyone interested in that, I think they've all been transitioned over to the new dYdX forum. So feel free to head over there and check them out. Brilliant. Tristan, over to the next slide. Immutable Lawyer, love that hoodie. I'll leave you to go through your.
No, it's very comfortable. It's very comfortable, I have to admit. Thanks a lot for the invite, guys. So I'll keep it short and sweet. So the underlying intention here was a simple one, yet I think in the long run it will be an effective one. So it was basically optimizing the tools available for the community to be able to discuss, debate, and post their own opinions on certain proposals or requests for comments, right? Certain discussions were being discussed on Discord, but not on the forum, which obviously gives rise to a problem of auditability. So if 3 years down the line, we want to see why the community took a particular decision, if it's on the forum, it's very auditable. We can check what the reasoning was. If it's on Discord, and if in 3 years down the line, we'll be using a different communication platform, it will not be that auditable. So it's about, I think, optimizing overall communication within the community. It was also, I think, an effort of sorts to try to increase participation. So I think, generally speaking, when you remove as many barriers to participation as you can, and barriers that can be, I think, reduced or eliminated very effectively by simply transferring or transitioning to another forum platform, you'll see an uptick in participation, that on its own, right? I think the forum stage also, as I highlighted even in the discussion on Commonwealth and even on Discord numerous times, it's the most important stage of the governance process. It provides an equitable ground for non-token holders and token holders alike to express their concerns. And I take myself as an example. I'm not a large token holder of dYdX, but through my comments and through my discussions on the forum, I'm potentially or able to influence the proposal in a positive way. So I think the forum stage offers users who may not have a large dYdX position to still have influence over the protocol, even though they do not have a large dYdX position, as I said. And I think that's a very important aspect, and I think providing the tools necessary to facilitate that discussion at that particular stage is very important. I also saw that on the previous forum, there were a lot of the same people commenting, which obviously starts to make you think, okay, so there are always the same 5-6 people commenting on a particular proposal. So maybe transitioning to a different forum platform, more ease of use, making it easier for people to discuss will increase that participation, have a variety of different ideas, introduce more ideas to the discussion at hand. And obviously, this will, in the long run, contribute to the progressive decentralization of the ecosystem as a whole. The more participants you have at every stage of the governance process, not merely the snapshot voting phase or the on-chain voting phase, the more decentralized you'll be in the long run. So it's about eliminating single points of failure. As I discussed on Discord yesterday, I think achieving decentralization is a game of whack-a-mole, with the mole being single points of failure. The more single points of failure you eliminate, the more decentralized you'll be. But what I look forward to, and this is something that I've been thinking about since the snapshot has passed, is incentivizing participation especially at the forum stage and even at other stages of the governance process. And what I found very interesting, actually, James, was your AMA with Karma HQ and Carl, actually. And I've been actually reading a lot about Karma in the past week or so, and I think we can potentially leverage Karma HQ to a far better extent, or even maybe work with them and collaborate with them to develop certain product-specific things that would incentivize people to participate even at the forum stage, which is very off-chain. So yeah, I think just by transitioning to Discourse, it's not the end yet. We have a lot more work to do to incentivize contributors to participate at this stage. But I urge people to contribute. I urge people to participate. Take myself as an example. As I said, I'm able to offer my thoughts, offer my insights. I do not have a large token holder position, but at the same time, if you participate at that stage, you will still have an effective contribution to the ecosystem. That's all from my end.
Appreciate that, Amit Lawyer. I think, yeah, just echoing your points, I think you're a prime example. You're a strong voice in the community and definitely have helped level up a lot of the discourse, should I say, that's happened in the community. So thank you for that. Cool. Move to the next one then, Tristan. I think we've got a few quick fire questions. It might come after the closing remarks, actually. Oh, here we are, Brill. Charles, I guess for you specifically, in your mind, what's the most important thing for the community to understand leading into V4?
Thank you. That's a very, very loaded question in a way that there is so much to consider, right? I think it's important for every member of the community to really pause and study and understand that the governance is really migrating totally in the end of the community. And so what does it mean? What are our responsibilities behind that? I think that's really what comes to mind, or at least capture my attention most of the days. Like there is a lot of potentials in this governance in the end of the token holder, but it comes also with a lot of, as I mentioned, responsibilities. So for me, the things to pay attention the most to is really governance, its dynamics. I think we have also new entering the stack of Cosmos. We have also new members in this community, which will be part of many conversations. And the one I want to highlight here are the validators. We use as an application to be sitting on someone else's blockchain, and there is with V4 the dYdX chain upcoming, which will be essentially run by a set of validators. So this is a new subset of community members which are entering our ecosystem. So I very much welcome them. It's important for everyone to capture that they will be part of conversations, and they will be part of the future also of the governance and V4 in general. So I think that's really for me the two main points. Take your time to study. Yes, there is a lot of potential, but try to highlight, ask questions, and understand what it means from an engineering perspective. What are the big changes in terms of engineering, and maybe we can cover some of them during AMAs and adding some guests from the technical side joining these monthly and quarterly calls, but also the governance. That's something which capture my attention.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it.
Feel free to jump in if you have some other comments, or if someone else has something he wants to mention or is capturing his attention for V4.
Real. Thanks. Carl, I guess just a quick question for you. Kind of what's the next steps for the Ops SubDAO? Is there any support, or how can the community support here?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that we started to think about ourselves. And we do start to approach the expiration of the first 6-month term, which should be in June, I believe. And now that we've kind of come to the end of the playbook publication, and we're still obviously heads down on the bank account and stuff like that, but we do start to look at what is a long-term role of the dYdX Ops SubDAO, if there is one. Obviously, it'll be up to the community, and we'll look forward to hearing feedback. But we have seen mention of these actors who will need to participate in V4 in order to support, for example, indexers and front-end providers and that sort of thing. And I envision there being a role for the Ops SubDAO to help sustain and effectively act as the entity that serves as the kind of counterparty to a lot of these longer-term providers when interacting with dYdX V4. But that's one avenue. The other one is to just continue supporting the growth of the DAO in whatever way possible as we start to expand into a new governance structure, as Charles mentioned, with validators and that sort of thing. We'll have to explore what that does to the existing playbook, for example, and how we start to see the SubDAO scale and whether there is additional support needed from an operations SubDAO. So there's definitely a few options available, and I think we'll definitely be working closely with the community and getting feedback and kind of bouncing off ideas with everybody to hear what would be the best trajectory and growth.
Brill, appreciate that, Carl. That's thorough. Kalen, just a quick one for you. I know you briefly touched on it. With the V4 Vanguard, what's the next steps from you here? Is there more discussion that has to happen? Yeah, what's the kind of next steps there?
Sure. I mean, I would say like the main thing is waiting for V4 to see how that evolves and also understanding like the market structure there, but also giving some time for the reduction in rewards to play out and see how that affects behavior. There were like quite a few complaints from the community regarding the increasing taker fees. So that's also like something that we're holding off on at the moment. But in general, there's like a few things that we can't actually control. We might be able to create a snapshot as a signal from the community's perspective, but at the end of the day, things like trading fees, discounts are all controlled by dYdX trading. So I think, yeah, going into V4, it's really understanding what's going on, how people are trading on the platform, and then seeing if we can adjust our proposals in any way to, yeah, make the platform better. I also think we're very conscious of the focus of the dYdX trading team on making sure all the eng resources are dedicated towards pushing V4 forward. So we're not going to put like any pressure from the governance side that may require any additional engineering resources.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Galen. And lastly, Immutable Lawyer, I mean, any hints or tips on really how the community can increase activity and engagement on the forums going forward?
Yeah, I think actually you preempted my thoughts to a certain extent, because I've been thinking about this for quite a while, since the snapshot vote actually, and even prior. So it's I think it's a multifaceted approach that we have to take. So when we offer at BCAS one of our decentralization audits, one of the things we assess is actually community participation at every stage of the governance process, right? So how many wallets vote, how many people participate at the forum stage, whether it's always the same person proposing, whether it's always the same 3 people discussing a proposal, all of these different things. And what we see on very active forums in other protocols is that they have a sort of cult-like approach to the ecosystem. So it has to come sort of from a cultural approach of the ecosystem. And we coined this term sort of from cult to culture. And you see it with BAYC, for example, where they were sort of a cult-like NFT token holders, but then it transitioned into being a cultural thing, where BAYCs were cultural. And there you see a lot of community participation around BAYCs. So I think it's, again, a multifaceted approach. Approach 1 has to be creating this culture, or transitioning from the cult, which we do have. We have hedges, which could be leveraged to create this culture around hedges. So we have a lot of positive things that maybe we could leverage and are currently present within the ecosystem. Secondly is recognizing participation. And that is why I made reference to Karma HQ, for example, where how do we recognize participation? And further from recognizing participation, how do we incentivize that participation? And I think the misconception in the industry is that to incentivize people either to participate or to take part in a particular ecosystem, it need necessarily be financial incentives, which is incorrect. It need not necessarily be financial incentives. For example, in this case, okay, you have a person who's passionate about contributing to the ecosystem. How do you reward such a person? So we could come up, and I alluded to this in the AMA with Karma, actually, with a mechanism whereby your community engagement at the forum stage, for example, and even snapshot votes is tallied via an equation that will increase your voting power, even though you have the same amount of tokens in your wallet. So where voting power is determined based on participation, and that adds an element of sweat equity. So the more sweat equity you have within a particular ecosystem, the more say you have on a particular ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of brainstorming sessions to be had, and that I started having even with other community members, such as, you know, James, Alucard, Nick, Andy, Mo, brainstorming ways of incentivizing this participation at all stages. And I think Karma HQ has been very interesting in how do we leverage that database, how do we track that database, And then, there are the problems to tackle. For example, how do I know that a person hasn't created 5 accounts on Discourse to be able to increase his voting power if we do have this voting mechanism in place? And then we come maybe to the solution. We're seeing a lot of proof of personhood protocols at the moment. Maybe we could integrate proof of personhood, which was even referred to by Vitalik Buterin a while back in part of his governance discussions. So there are a lot of different and interesting challenges to tackle. But I think with a little bit of discussion and a little bit of brainstorming, we can actually tackle these effectively, even since we already have a good relationship with the Karma HQ, which I think, again, I cannot emphasize this enough, this could be leveraged to effectively increase participation at the forum stage, especially. So I'm very excited to see how we can leverage Karma HQ to benefit us at all stages, basically.
Likewise, appreciate that. That's really great advice. Fantastic. Okay, that's everything for this Q2 town hall, DAO-wide town hall. As discussed at the start, just keep an eye out. We're going to be hosting monthly AMAs again now, as the start, like we did a few kind of months ago and from a year ago, where we can get everyone on and just asking questions in the audience, and we can all come on as a wide community. We'll get community members on and DAO contributors on as well at the same time. I really appreciate everyone being patient in the audience and for your politeness in not unmuting yourself and speaking during this AMA. It really helps us deliver the information that we come to deliver and gets as many people involved as possible. So going forward, we'll do this one every quarter. Again, we'll do a monthly AMA, but feedback is really encouraged. And yeah, feel free to tag any of us on Discord and or the new forum on Discourse, and we can take it forward from there. Appreciate also everyone who's come to speak on this presentation, and James also in the audience for helping design this here. That's super helpful. So we'll close this off here and we'll see everyone in the next Q3 review.